大家好，又係讀你聽嘅時間。今日呢，我開咗本新書，書名呢叫做《Liar's Poker》，Michael Lewis 嘅作品。Michael Lewis 係一個暢銷嘅作家啦，佢主要嘅書都係圍繞住金融啦，有啲嘅運動類啦，好多都改編咗電影。咁唔知大家有冇睇過 The Big Short、Blind Slide， 又或者 Moneyball 呢啲咁樣嘅電影啦，都係改編自佢嘅小説。讀一讀俾大家聽。開始內文之前呢，讀一讀背頁啦，或者一啲前言啦。The time was the 1980s. The place was Wall Street. The game was called Liar's Poker. Michael Lewis was fresh out of Princeton and the London School of Economics when he landed a job at Salomon Brothers, one of Wall Street's premier investment firms. During the next 3 years, Lewis rose from callow trainee to New York and London-based bond salesman, raking in millions for the firm and cashing in on a modern-day gold rush. Liar's Poker is the culmination of those heady, frenzied years. A behind-the-scenes look at a unique and turbulent time in American business. From the frat boy camaraderie of the 41st floor trading room to the killer instinct that made ambitious young men gamble everything on a high-stakes game of bluffing and deception, here is Michael Lewis's knowing and hilarious insider's account of an unprecedented era of greed, gluttony, and outrageous fortune. Michael Lewis is the best-selling author of Moneyball, The Blind Side, and The Big Short. He lives in Berkeley with his wife and 3 children. 咁呢本書呢，就係 W.W. Norton New York 出版嘅。呢本書係2010年第一版 Norton 第一版。咁1989年嘅 copyright 係佢有個前言嘅 preface。I was a bond salesman on Wall Street and in London. Working beside traders at Salomon Brothers put me, I believe, epicenter of one of those events that helped to define an age. Traders are masters of the quick killing, and a lot of the killings in the past 10 years also have been quick. And Salomon Brothers was indisputably the king of traders. What I have tried to do here without is, as it were, leaving my seat on the Salomon trading floor, is to describe and explain the events and the attitudes that characterized the era. The story occasionally tails away from me, but it is nonetheless my story throughout. The money I did not make and the lies I did not tell, I still understood in a personal way because of my position. That was somewhere near the center of a modern gold rush. Never before have so many unskilled 24-year-olds made so much money in so little time as we did this decade in New York and London. There has never before been such a fantastic exception to the rule of the marketplace that one takes out no more than one puts in. Now, I do not object to money. I generally would rather have more than less, but I am not holding my breath waiting for another windfall. What happened was a rare and amazing glitch in the fairly predictable history of getting and spending. It should be said that I was, by the standards we use to measure ourselves, a success. I made a lot of money. I was told often by people who ran our firm that I would one day join them at the top. I would rather not make this boast early, but the reader needs to know that I have been given no reason to feel bitterly toward or estranged from my former employer. I set out to write this book only because I thought it would be better to tell the story than to go on living the story. Liar's Poker. Wall Street, reads the sinister old gag, is a street with a river at one end and a graveyard at the other. This is striking, but incomplete. It omits the kindergarten in the middle. Chapter 1. Liar's Poker. It was sometime early in 1986, the first year of the decline of my firm, Salomon Brothers. Our chairman, John Goodfriend, left his desk at the head of the trading floor and went for a walk. At any given moment on the trading floor, billions of dollars were being risked by bond traders. Goodfriend took the pulse of the place by simply wandering around it and asking questions of the traders. An eerie sixth sense guided him to wherever a crisis was unfolding. Goodfriend seemed able to smell money being lost. He was the last person a nerve-wracked trader wanted to see. Goodfriend liked to sneak up from behind and surprise you. That was fun for him, but not for you. Busy on 2 phones at once trying to stem disaster, you had no time to turn and look. You didn't need to. You felt him. The area around you began to convulse like an epileptic ward. People were pretending to be frantically busy and at the same time staring intently at a spot directly above your head. You felt a chill in your bones that I imagine belongs to the same class of intelligence as the nervous twitch of a small furry animal at the silent approach of a grizzly bear. An alarm shriek in your head. Good Freund, good Freund, good Freund. Often as not, our chairman just hovered quietly for a bit and then left. You might never have seen him. The only trace I found of him on 2 of these occasions was a turd-like ash on the floor beside my chair, left, I suppose, as a calling card. Good Freund's cigar droppings were longer and better formed than those of the average Salomon boss. I always assumed that he smoked a more expensive blend than the rest, purchased with a few of the $40 million he had cleared on the sale of Salomon Brothers in 1981. This day, in 1986, however, Good Freund did something strange. Instead of terrifying us all, he walked a straight line to the trading desk of John Merriweather, a member of the board of Salomon Incorporation, and also one of Salomon's finest bond traders. He whispered a few words. The traders in the vicinity eavesdropped. What Good Freund said has become a legend at Salomon Brothers and a visceral part of its corporate identity. He said, "One hand, $1 million, no tears." One hand, $1 million, no tears. Merriweather grabbed the meaning instantly. The king of Wall Street, as Business Week had duped Good Freund, wanted to play a single hand of a game called Liar's Poker for $1 million. He played the game most afternoons with Merriweather and the 6 young bond arbitrage traders who worked for Merriweather and was usually skinned alive. Some traders said Good Freund was heavily outmatched. Others who couldn't imagine John Good Freund as anything but omnipotent, and there were many said that losing suited his purpose, though exactly what that might be was a mystery. The peculiar feature of Good Freund's challenge this time was the size of the stake. Normally his bets didn't exceed a few $100. $1 million was unheard of. The final 2 words of his challenge, no tears, meant that the loser was expected to suffer a great deal of pain, but wasn't entitled to whine, bitch, or moan about it. He just had to hunker down and keep his poverty to himself. But why? You might ask if you were anyone other than the king of Wall Street. Why do it in the first place? Why, in particular, challenge Merriweather instead of some lesser managing director? It seemed an act of sheer lunacy. Merriweather was the king of the game, the liar's poker champion of the Salomon Brothers trading floor. On the other hand, one thing you learn on the trading floor is that winners like Good Freund always have some reason for what they do. It might not be the best of reasons, but at least they have a concept in mind. I was not privy to Good Freund's innermost thoughts, but I do know that all the boys on the trading floor gambled and that he wanted badly to be one of the boys. What I think Good Freund had in mind in this instance was a desire to show his courage, like the boy who leaps from the high dive. Who better than Merriweather for the purpose? Besides, Merriweather was probably the only trader with both the cash and the nerve to play. The whole absurd situation needs putting into context. John Merriweather had, in the course of his career, made hundreds of millions of dollars for Salomon Brothers. He had an ability, rare among people and treasured by traders, to hide his state of mind. Most traders divulge whether they are making or losing money by the way they speak or move. They are either overly easy or overly tense. With Merriweather, you could never, ever tell. He wore the same blank, half-tense expression when he won as he did when he lost. He had, I think, a profound ability to control the 2 emotions that commonly destroy traders, fear and greed, and it made him as noble as a man who pursues his self-interest so fiercely can be. He was thought by many within Salomon to be the best bond trader on Wall Street. Around Salomon, no tone but awe was used when he was discussed. People would say he is the best businessman in the place, or the best risk-taker I have ever seen, or a very dangerous liar's poker player. Merriweather cast a spell over the young traders who worked for him. His boys range in age from 25 to 32. Most of them had PhDs in math, economics, and/or physics. Once they got onto Meriwether's trading desk, however, they forgot they were supposed to be detached intellectuals. They became disciples. They became obsessed by the game of liar's poker. They regarded it as their game, and they took it to a new level of seriousness. John Gutfreund was always the outsider in their game, but that Business Week put his picture on the cover and called him the King of Wall Street held little significance for them. I mean, that was in a way the whole point. Gutfreund was the king of Wall Street, but Meriwether was king of the game. When Gutfreund had been crowned by the gentlemen of the press, you could almost hear traders thinking, foolish names and foolish faces often appear in public places. Fair enough, Gutfreund had once been a trader, but that was as relevant as an old woman's claim that she was once quite a dish. At times, Gutfreund himself seemed to agree. He loved to trade. Compared with managing, trading was admirably direct. You made your bets and either you won or you lost. When you won, people, all the way up to the top of the firm, admired you, envied you, and feared you, and with reason. You controlled the loot. When you managed the firm, well, sure, you received your quota of envy, fear, and admiration, but for all the wrong reasons. You did not make the money for Salomon. You did not take risk. You were hostage to your producers. They took risk. They proved their superiority every day by handling risk better than the rest of the risk-taking world. The money came from risk-takers such as Meriwether, and whether it came or not was really beyond Gutfreund's control. That's why many people thought that single rash act of challenging the arbitrage boss to one hand for $1 million was Gutfreund's way of showing he was a player too. And if you wanted to show off, liar's poker was the only way to go. The game had a powerful meaning for traders. People like John Meriwether believed that liar's poker had a lot in common with bond trading. It tested the trader's character. It honed the trader's instincts. A good player made a good trader, and vice versa. We all understood it. The game, in liar's poker, a group of people, a few as 2, as many as 10, form a circle. Each player holds a dollar bill close to his chest. The game is similar in spirit to a card game known as I Doubt It. Each player attempts to fool the others about the serial numbers printed on the face of his dollar bill. One trader begins by making a bid. He says, for example, 3 sixes. He means that all told the serial numbers of the dollar bills held by every player, including himself, contain at least 3 sixes. Once the first bid has been made, the game moves clockwise in the circle. Let's say the bid is 3 sixes. The player to the left of the bidder can do one of 2 things. He can bid higher or he can challenge. That is like saying, I doubt it. The bidding escalates until all the other players agree to challenge a single player's bid. Then, and only then, do the players reveal their serial numbers and determine who is bluffing whom. In the midst of all this, the mind of good players spins with probabilities. What is the statistical likelihood of there being 3 sixes within a batch of, say, 40 randomly generated serial numbers? For a great player, however, the math is the easy part of the game. The hard part is reading the faces of the other players. The complexity arises when all players know how to bluff and double bluff. The game has some of the feel of trading, just as jousting has some of the feel of war. The questions a liar's poker player asks himself are, up to a point, the same questions a bond trader asks himself. Is this a smart risk? Do I feel lucky? How cunning is my opponent? Does he have any idea what he's doing? And if not, how do I exploit his ignorance? If he bids high, is he bluffing? Or does he actually hold a strong hand? Is he trying to induce me to make a foolish bid? Or does he actually have 4 of a kind himself? Each player seeks weakness, predictability, and pattern in the others and seeks to avoid it in himself. The bond traders of Goldman Sachs, First Boston, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, and other Wall Street firms all play some versions of liar's poker. But the place where the stakes run highest, thanks to John Meriwether, is the New York bond trading floor of Salomon Brothers. The code of the liar's poker player was something like the code of the gunslinger. It required a trader to accept all challenges. Because of the code, which was his code, John Meriwether felt obliged to play. But he knew it was stupid. For him, there was no upside. If he won, he upset Gutfreund. No good came of this. But if he lost, he was out of pocket $1 million. This was worse than upsetting the boss. Although Meriwether was by far the better player of the game, in a single hand anything could happen. Luck could very well determine the outcome. Meriwether spent his entire day avoiding dumb bets, and he wasn't about to accept this one. No, John, he said, if we're going to play for those kind of numbers, I'd rather play for real money. $10 million. No tears. $10 billion. It was a moment for all players to savor. Merriweather was playing liar's poker before the game even started. He was bluffing. Gutfreund considered the counter-proposal. It would have been just like him to accept. Merely to entertain the thought was luxury that must have pleased him well. On the other hand, $10 million was, and is, a lot of money. If Gutfreund lost, it had only $30 million or so left. His wife, Susan, was busy spending the better part of $15 million decorating their Manhattan apartment. And as Gutfreund was the boss, he clearly wasn't bound by the Merriweather Code. Who knows? Maybe he didn't even know the Merriweather Code. Maybe the whole point of his challenge was to judge Merriweather's response. So Gutfreund declined. In fact, he smiled his own brand of forced smile and said, "You're crazy. No thought, Merriweather, just very, very good." 呢個就係第一節，咁我哋睇下有啲咩字同大家分享啦。有3個字同大家分享 ，Camaraderie 係一個名詞嚟嘅，意思就係 mutual trust and friendship among people who spend a lot of time together，即係一啲友情啦、情誼。咁文中就係講呢個作者嘅出身啦，由一個學生情誼低級做起嘅情誼，發展到去一個好高嘅位置啦，一個好高嘅地位啦，咁樣。Epicentre 名詞嚟嘅 ，the point on the Earth's surface vertically above the focus of an earthquake, the center point of something, typically a difficult or unpleasant situation。震央啦，頭一個解釋就係震央啦，地震嘅中心啦，又或者普遍啲嘅用法就係一個唔好嘅事嘅中心啦，一個爆發點啦，爆發中心。Omnipotent 係一個形容詞嚟嘅 ，great power and influence， 全能嘅、萬能嘅、無所不能嘅，好多時候係用嚟形容一啲神啦、神佛啦嘅一啲能力啦嚇，咁亦都會應用喺凡人嘅。文中就係應用喺John Gutfreund啦嚇，就係形容佢係全能嘅 Omnipotent。OK， 好，我哋下一次再同大家見面，拜拜。